Welcome back to Project 613. Today we learn the Torah's prohibition on a judge from accepting testimony from the relative of one of the litigants, either in support or against. It doesn't make a difference. A relative, a close relative, is not allowed to give testimony on behalf of one of the litigants. We learn this from the verse that says, Lo yumtu avot al banim, banim lo yumtu al avot. A father shall not die by his child, and a child by his father. And this specific case, the Torah is referring to a case of capital punishment, where if a father testifies against his son, or a son testifies against his father, the judge cannot issue a verdict based on this testimony, because this is considered invalid testimony, as they are close relatives. And there is a whole list of which relatives are included in this prohibition and which are not. But the Torah specifically uses the extreme case of a case of capital punishment, because the truth is that this prohibition applies to any case, even a case of monetary arguments. Also, a judge would not be allowed to accept the testimony of a relative on behalf of one of the litigants. Nevertheless, the Torah specifically uses the case of capital punishment to tell us that even in the most extreme case, where perhaps we would think that maybe we should trust one of the litigants, we should trust this testimony. For after all, a father and a son usually love each other very dearly. And if things have gotten so bad that the father is giving this testimony against his son, or the son against his father, surely this will be the truth, and surely we should accept it. Nevertheless, the Torah tells us no. Now, Maimonides tells us that this prohibition is considered one of the chukim, one of the super-rational decrees of the Torah, because ultimately it doesn't really depend on whether or not the individual is trustworthy or not. And usually when it comes to testimony, the only criteria should be, is this testimony trustworthy? And if we could determine that indeed it is trustworthy, we should accept it. But here we see that the Torah makes a blanket rule that relatives cannot testify on behalf of each other. And even if we're talking about the most trustworthy individual, still the Torah says this is not allowed. And this is how we see that this is considered one of the chukim, one of the Torah's super-rational laws. Similarly, not only does this apply to a relative testifying on behalf of a relative, a pair of witnesses themselves cannot be related to each other. As we know, in the Torah's laws, there needs to be two witnesses, not one. So two brothers, for example, cannot testify together. So imagine if Moses and Aaron would show up together in court giving testimony, their testimony would be thrown out of court. And you're talking about Moses and Aaron. We have no doubt that every word that they are saying is true. So it's not about doubting the truth of the testimony. Rather, this is the Torah's decree that two brothers, or a father and a son, cannot testify for or against each other, and cannot testify as a pair for or against someone else. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.